مرحبا بكم في حوارات السياق. شهدت إيران هذا الأسبوع مظاهرات حاشدة في عدد من المدن بما فيها طهران على خلفية مقتل شابة بعد اعتقالها من قبل شرطة الأخلاق. المظاهرات شاركت فيها المحاميات والناشطات والصحفيات وضحايا العنف، حيث طالبن بالعدالة والحرية والمساواة. للمزيد من المتابعة حول هذا الملف تنضم إلينا مريم معمار صادقي، كبيرة الباحثين في معهد ماكدونالد لوريير في كندا. سيدة مريم، مرحبا بك معنا.
Thank you for having me.
ما الذي حدث هذا الأسبوع؟ هناك من شبه الضحية ببوعزيز إيران.
Absolutely. Bouazizi killed himself in Tunisia and sparked the Arab Spring. This is a case of an innocent 22-year-old girl being killed because of an Islamist ideology that has taken the lives of many girls and women. We are hearing about Mahsa because her parents were courageous enough to speak out, because other girls who were in the van with her spoke out, because people at the hospital said that she had 10 or 11 blows to her head. Iran is really changed from what it was before, in that people have the power together to speak truth, and they're out on the streets now because of the killing of Mahsa, but because also 4 decades of so much humiliation that women have suffered, and the men are marching right alongside them. The men are encouraging their burning of the headscarves, walking around without the headscarf. Women and girls on a daily basis have to fear the morality police and fear physical punishment if they don't wear this headscarf.
مهسا أميني أصبح اسمها يتردد في أروقة الأمم المتحدة في الاتحاد الأوروبي كشاهد على قمع إيران للمرأة. ما رأيك في تعامل الغرب مع الانتهاكات في إيران؟ هل التنديد كاف؟
No, it's not. Unfortunately, the democracies of the world, the United States, France, Germany, other countries are refusing to see the reality of the repression of the regime and refusing to see the courage of the people on the streets. Yesterday, Emmanuel Macron met and shook hands with Raisi the same day that people were out on the streets in every corner, all major cities, small towns, people were protesting for wholesale regime change. They know that there is no prospect for any kind of government-led reform. And yet the regime is really being sustained through this kind of so-called diplomacy with a mass killer. Raisi is himself personally culpable for the killing of thousands of political prisoners in the 1988 prison massacre.
كيف هي حياة النساء في إيران؟ هل هناك انتهاكات ممنهجة لحقوقهن؟
It's a system of gender apartheid. And just as the blacks in South Africa rose up against that system, it's the women of Iran who are rising up against the system in Iran today. They are systematically disempowered, humiliated, segregated, beaten, denied every opportunity, and yet it is the women who are on the streets, and it's the women who are leading the way to a democratic change in Iran. Prior to the revolution, it's important to mention, Iranian women had made great gains in every aspect of life. They were judges, they were government ministers, they were proud athletes, they were advancing in every field. And the Islamist revolution in 1979, its primary objective was to set women back.
لو أردنا أن نفهم جذور المشكلة، الحائزة على نوبل شيرين عبادي قالت: على الرغم من أن أحداث 79 تسمى غالبا في إيران ثورة إسلامية، إلا أنه يمكن القول بأنها ثورة رجال ضد النساء. لماذا استهداف النساء تحديدا؟
That is the Islamist ideology. wherever it is implemented, it's going to be this. It's going to be men and women separated from each other, girls and women denied very basic rights, very basic opportunities. We see what's happening in Afghanistan now with the Taliban back in power. There is no good Islamist regime. An Islamist regime is a regime that takes away the dignity of women. There could have been no other outcome from the revolution of 1979.
في المقابل سمح أخيراً للمرأة الإيرانية بالدخول إلى ملاعب كرة القدم. هل هناك تقدم هنا تجب الإشادة به؟
Absolutely not. It's a cosmetic change that is made to garner some media attention so that as the regime is only repressing women more and more, it can use that as a way to deflect criticism.
ما حدث لمهسا أميني ورد الفعل في الشارع، هل يدفع السلطات باعتقادك إلى مراجعة صلاحيات وطريقة عمل ما تعرف بشرطة الأخلاق؟
I doubt it. The morality police, the so-called morality police, and this enforcement of mandatory hijab on Iranian women is a key pillar that holds up the entirety of the regime. The regime's repressive apparatus, its hold on power, is sustained through this repression of women. If it lets go, then everything falls apart for it.
هل الشرطة كانت قاسية في تعاملها مع المتظاهرين؟ كانت هناك فيديوهات مربكة لعناصر من الشرطة يهربون من المتظاهرين.
Well, the regime security forces are killing. We don't know how many people have been killed in this round of nationwide protests, but in 2019, the regime forces killed over 1,500 peaceful protesters and then tortured many thousands that were arrested during those protests. So I wouldn't confuse the power of the people against the regime forces with any kind of benevolent posture from the regime. If the regime can get away with killing, it will opt for killing.
ما رأيك في تعامل وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي مع هذه المظاهرات في إيران؟
Absolutely shameful. I have written about this in the Wall Street Journal and other places. Instagram, Twitter, they do not have the systems to prevent infiltration by regime officials, by the regime agents and networks that they have outside of Iran, and they are not able to prevent manipulation of their artificial intelligence systems. So right now, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, other social networks undoubtedly are complicit in the repression of the Iranian people. Why? Because protesters, celebrities, athletes, activists who are speaking out against the regime are having their posts and their videos and their commentary about the protests systematically removed from these social media platforms. So a video about a protest that has already garnered many thousands of likes and comments and shares, retweets, is being taken down by Instagram and Twitter as we speak, because the regime has that much power and influence on these companies. And these are American companies. American social media companies are helping the regime to repress the Iranian people.
اللوبي الإيراني في أمريكا، حدثيني عن دوره في التطبيع مع كل انتهاكات إيران لحقوق الإنسان.
The regime has a very active lobby outside of the country, and particularly in the United States. As you know, these lobbyists are out front in Washington and in policy circles, but they're also in the university system, they are in the media, and their job is to normalize the regime's activity, particularly when it's in a state of high repression, and to make the regime look like any other government in the world. And they consistently advocate for close ties between the United States and that regime. They consistently advocate for lifting of pressure on Iran's regime, and they consistently downplay the abuse of human rights.
المدير التنفيذي لمركز حقوق الإنسان بنيويورك شبه الوضع بلحظة مقتل جورج فلويد. هل نحن أمام تغيير ما؟ هل تعود الإيرانيون على الانتهاكات؟ هل وحشية النظام انتصرت؟
Oh, I think that this incident has the potential for bringing about regime change. The Iranian people on the streets, that is their demand. And whether it happens with this round of protests or not is the question. But undoubtedly, that is the demand of the Iranian people.
شكرا مريم. معمار صادقي كبيرة الباحثين في معهد ماكدونالد لوريير للمشاركة معنا في حوارات السياق.
Thank you so much.
مشاهدينا شكرا لطيب المتابعة. إلى الملتقى.